Welcome back, everybody. We're going to talk about ratio trading today. Is it a good idea or a bad idea? And of course, with all my videos, you should know the answer is nuanced. It's never a yes or a no. It's not a black and white. Everybody wants things to be black or white. Reality is very much gray, okay? So I'm going to tell you guys about ratio trading, and essentially, to make it easy, long story short, it's buy low, sell high. You buy the ratio that's low, you sell the ratio that's high if you want to play that game. Now, I don't do any of this ratio trading at all. I haven't in a long time. I might have done a small one when PulseChain first launched, but I don't waste my time worrying about it. And I think a lot of people kind of overcomplicate things. You know, they stare at the charts all day. They think they have to somehow do something to get ahead, when really we all just know, guys, dollar cost averaging at the dips, dollar cost averaging your way down, and long-term positioning and delayed gratification, long-term holding on multi-months and years is what wins. And people don't want to hear that. People don't want to believe that. And they think, oh man, I can just increase my stack by 25% if I make the right ratio trade this week or this month even. And you should be thinking about, if you even are going to ratio trade, probably try thinking about that at a longer monthly time scale, not even within a single month or a single week. Because I mean, that's really no better than day trading, and you might be wrong. Okay, there's no way to get a lot of signal on these smaller time frames. Most of the noise is on the smaller time frames. The signal comes on the longer ones, on the monthly charts or the weekly charts, right? So we're going to talk about INC token as an example, right? INC token was the one that was pumping today. Now look, we've got a nice little pullback today. Negative 14% dip. Oh my God, the sky is falling. If you guys think a 14% dip in crypto is a lot, you don't understand the game you're playing, okay? 14% dip is a regular day. It could dip more, right? We could see PLS go all the way back to sacrifice rate for all I know, which would make sense, but I don't know. It could go higher too. So I don't waste my time trying to time the market when I know I'm in it for much, much longer than today. And I do believe that the bull run's only kind of just getting started. Okay. But people are focused on INC today because that was the one that was pumping the most. And oh my God, Richard Hart tweeted about INC token. Does that mean everyone should go ape in? No, he's just making an observation that look over the past month, guys. Let's change this to a 30-day. INC did go up higher. It went up about a 5x. PulseChain doubled. PLS tripled. And little old Hex only went up 78%. Only 78. Like, as if that's not huge already. But, you know, some people might have the totally wrong idea. And they'll look at this and they'll say, oh, well, this big green number on INC token is the biggest one of them all. So I'm going to go ape into all INC token just because everyone obviously... And so people can't wait for their confirmation bias to be satisfied. They love to click buy when the candles have already gone up so much. And if you listen to what Richard is saying on the tweet, he's basically just explaining that, look, guys, it's a smaller market cap coin. It's up so much today because it's got an interesting model. It's kind of an inflationary model from zero. Only yield farmers can mine it. And the chart kind of looks like leverage on Pulse and PulseX. He's just making an analogy. And it does look like leverage. I mean, if INC was the most REKT coin, it kind of makes sense that it would be the fastest to rebound. Fastest in that rubber band effect, that elasticity to come all the way back from the grave and not make highs again. But just because it had fallen 99.9% already means that it's very, very easy for it to do a 5x to return to, you know, somewhat normal levels. I guess another way to put that is the farther something goes down, the easier it is to whipsaw back up, you know, elastic, right? That's why PulseX, a lot of people are thinking, oh, it's going to have no problem getting back to sac rate. And it's kind of an easy narrative to buy into because you know it was there at one point. And if PulseChain can do it, and PulseX went down more than PulseChain, well, they can probably get up faster and better as well. So INC token, everybody. Am I buying INC token? No, I'm not. But I do yield farm it. I do yield farm in the PulseX pair. I yield farm in the Hex PLS pair. That's just me personally because I like all three of those coins. Hex, PulseX, Pulse. I think they're all going to go up. But the beauty of this, what I want to kind of get across here is that they don't all go up in tandem, in lockstep all the time. And what's really interesting about these 3 or 4 or 5 tokens, I guess, EHEX, PHEX, INC, Pulse, PulseX, is all these tokens kind of create this situation where you could have somewhat of a seasonality factor. Of, oh, it's PulseChain month this month, or it's this week PulseX is the hot one, but next week, you know, Hex is going to be the hot token. And you could have this approach where they don't all pump at the same time, but it does leave opportunities on the table, especially if you're looking at a multi-month time scale of potential ratio trades that don't suck. But when it comes to ratio trades that aren't necessarily good, I'll show you one on Twitter that I just saw earlier today. 5.6 million Hex just sold for INC token. And this was almost at the top, the local top of INC. Now, could INC keep going higher? Absolutely it could. But do I think it's likely to keep going higher? Not really. And we'll go to INC token over here. Look at INC token, guys. If you go here on dexscreener.com, it already went up for a 6x, 600% since January 5th over here. When it was at about 40 cents, it went from 40 cents to $4, I think, at some point. And by the way, guys, I was tweeting about INC token 2 weeks ago saying, is it worth to keep $1,000 of INC token? I am holding a little bit of INC token, okay? I am. But again, I didn't buy it on the market. I mined it, or I yield farmed it, okay? But I was also talking about it when it was a lot lower. I'm not up here at the top saying, yeah, INC is awesome, everybody go buy it. No, INC has no use case. So this is just proof that people only buy stuff. A lot of people just buy what's green. They just want to buy the green candle. They want their confirmation bias. But does that mean INC token is just a shitcoin and will always be bad? No, not really. Because guess what? Richard Hart could decide to invent a use case for it. We've had people speculate maybe he would use it as the sacrifice token for his wallet or his keychain or whatever we're calling it. Maybe he could use INC token as the DAO governance token in 1 or 2 or 3 more years from now when PulseX becomes a lot more mature. Possibly. But we also can't just sit around and hope and pray that Richard, creates some use case. But guess what, guys? It doesn't have to be Richard, the founder. It could be literally anybody could come up and create a compelling use case for INC to give it utility, quote unquote, and then all of a sudden the narrative is back, driving more real value to INC, depending on the utility, right? We've got websites like pulsedao.pro. They've invented kind of a staking for INC, and some other protocols have been like burning INC. But I guess these use cases haven't really been compelling enough to stop people from dumping it, okay? But that's not to say that there won't ever be a use case in the future. So maybe holding a tiny bag wouldn't hurt. But again, not buying it at the top after it already did a huge rush, and especially not ratio trading, like all of your Hex, which I believe is a longer term, more solid play for, whatever happens to be the hot new thing of the day. And that's what just INC was kind of the hot thing of the day, in my opinion. Now, again, I still do have a little bag. I like having a little bag just because I could take profit if there ever is some awesome use case in the future and INC moons and it does like a 10x versus Hex and PulseChain and PulseX. I might take some profit on that. Maybe I'll even roll it back into PLS, PulseX, and Hex because I like the fact that it's so ready to explode at any given narrative. Like INC is so desperate for a narrative that any little thing, even just a big green candle, can be enough of a narrative to make it do what Richard is calling leverage, right? It's almost as if it's leverage on the original Pulse and PulseX coins. But when it comes to ratio trading, guys, on Dex Screener right here, this is how we look at the ratio. By default, we have the US dollar value on the y-axis by default. If we want the ratio, what we're saying is essentially this is the INC Hex pair. We want to know how many Hex does it cost per INC, or vice versa. How many INC does it cost per Hex? In this case, we're looking at INC versus Hex. So if we click on Hex, that's going to show us the ratio, and that's going to put the number of Hex per INC on the y-axis right here, okay? So you can see right now we're at 184 Hex per 1 INC. It costs 184 Hex to buy an INC coin. But after it's already gone up so much, and look, there's not a whole lot of strong resistance points here on the ratio chart. After it's already gone up to this 226 line right around here, look, it kind of tapped this local low back here in July. And then it went down and retraced. But it's already done a 6x, remember, in USD. So what's more likely, guys? That the ratio just keeps going up absurdly into no man's land forever on the no utility token? Just because it already went up. And it could, right? It could, but it just seems a lot more likely to me personally that rather than going up to, I don't know, this support line at 280 or this support line at 377, I guess it'd be a resistance line at 380. Rather than going all the way up here in a straight moonshot, straight up and to the right, it might probably go back down and maybe retest some of these supports areas of 128. So you got to ask yourself, if you're buying the local top of something, if you're chasing the green candles, and you're ratio trading the thing that's weak currently for the thing that's strong currently, it's probably not the best ratio trade. Okay, you want to do the exact opposite of that. You want to buy low, sell high. So here, let me show you a better example. This is the Hex to PulseX ratio, okay? And remember, USD up here, I got to flip-flop it. It's going to default you to USD. Click on the price of Hex in PulseX terms. Okay, this is Hex versus PulseX, All right. And you can see right now, Hex has been losing a lot of strength. Hex is going down relative to PulseX. It's costing less and less PulseX in order to buy one Hex. You know, it just went from 580 to 333. But, and this is weird because it's a little bit of a young chart. We don't have a whole lot of history. We've only got 8 months of chart history, right? So it's hard to really draw strong supports and resistances. But it looks to me like Hex is getting a lot weaker compared to PulseX and almost hitting, if you want to call this a support, it could be hitting a support. So to me personally, and I'm not doing this, by the way, I'm not ratio trading any of this. But if I was, I'm not saying it's a bad thing for everybody. If you want to do it, that's fine. But you should be doing it on a longer monthly time scale and more of a positioning approach of, okay, well, let's look at the health of Hex. Hex is looking like kind of the weak one right now compared to PulseX. Compared to PulseX, meaning PulseX has just gone up a lot more relative to Hex, okay? So at that point, what's more likely, that we just keep crashing or that we bounce off and then maybe Hex starts showing some more strength in the next coming month or two? So I think it looks a lot more attractive to be buying Hex with PulseX here if I was a ratio trader, which I'm not doing that, by the way. I'm just saying hypothetically, this looks like a better move to me to rotate Pulse or PulseX into Hex at these local Hex lows relative to Pulse and PulseX, rather than buying the top of INC with Hex just because Hex hasn't been the golden boy of the past month. Still done very well. Very, very well, by the way. But all the other ones have gone up more. So you're basically just saying, oh, this one's not going up fast enough. I'm going to dump all my Hex for INC. No, that doesn't sound like the smart thing to do. To me, if I was taking a long-term monthly ratio trade, which again, I'm not. I'll say that one more time. I would say, well, PulseX has already gone up so much in the past month. Hex hasn't gone up as much. So you buy low and sell high. You go from the more expensive one and rotate that into the one that's currently less expensive. That's the motto. Easier said than done, okay? But rather than even wasting all your time and overcomplicating things and ratio trading just to try to increase your bag, 10%, 20%, you could also risk losing like 30, 40% of your bag just because you made a couple of bad ratio trades in a row. What's better is looking at ratios. To me personally, I like looking at ratios as what's the best coin to enter, assuming that I like all three. I like PulseX, Pulse, and Hex, okay? But I've got, some fresh powder to come in with. And maybe you, rather than worrying about ratio trading on a weekly or a hourly or God forbid a 15-minute chart, you can go work at your business, go to your job and get a paycheck. And then, every 2 weeks you get a paycheck and let's say you got like $500 to put in and you're asking yourself, I wonder which one I should go into. I like them all, but at this current time, I've got, my periodic cash flow coming in and I want to deploy some of this cash into a token. I think I want to pick the one that looks like it's got the most potential, right? So I would personally be looking at Hex right now because it's low relative to PLSX. And we could even see the ratio on the PulseChain chart. This is Hex to PLS. Remember, click ratio. Hex to PLS up here, and also looks kind of similar. Okay, it looks like it's showing a lot of weakness. Hex is weak compared to PLS right now. Do you understand? It's weak compared to PLS. So if I were to deploy new capital, I'd probably be deploying it into Hex because that's the one with the most upwards potential. Now, this is just what I would do personally. I have all even positions of all three. I really can't stress how much I don't overthink things. Okay, and when it comes to micromanaging my my ratio, my balance of PulseX to Pulse, I don't care if I have, 30% Pulse and 20% Hex one day. Because, 4 or 5 months from now, that the way that the prices work out, your total net worth by just holding might be, Hex is strong right now. So your bag is 40% Hex and 20% PulseX. On monthly and yearly timescales, I don't care about the day-to-day of what ratio is hot today. But for people coming in with new money, I think it does actually add some value to look at a ratio to understand which one is weak and which one is strong, and maybe where your entry points could be a little bit better in terms of upwards potential in the bull run. So you just also got to think about, right, the cost-benefit analysis of staring at the hourly chart or the 15-minute chart or even the daily chart and just asking yourself, what's a good ratio trade, and searching for that hot alpha and doom scrolling through Twitter all day trying to figure out if there's a good trade to be made. A hands-off approach will take a lot of stress out of your life. Just if you have the base assumption that these will all do relatively well. Okay, maybe you don't like Hex at all. Maybe you don't like PulseX at all. Maybe you just want to accumulate more Hex. that's fine. I'm just talking about the ratio trading mentality, and in particular, just the pump chasing mentality. You can ratio trade. You just don't want to chase the pump. You just simply do the opposite. Buy the low one and sell the high one. Sell the high one for the low one, right? Rotate the high one into the low one. But if you're just going over to, Go Pulse and you're buying whatever's pumping hardest for the day, just because, oh my God, this one went up so much, it's kind of noob behavior. You know what I mean? It's just not the way to go. You don't just chase the highest coin of the day. So just be aware out there, guys. Don't overcomplicate things. Don't spin your wheels in the mud. This video was not meant to confuse people. It was just meant to say, and take a step back. Simplify things. Everything's going to be okay. And are you really a good trader? Are you really a good day trader, ratio trader? Don't lie to yourself out there, guys. A lot of people, myself included, I'm too emotional for trading. And I've tried it before. I spent a year day trading. A good solid year, probably more, actually. And it didn't really get me anywhere. I didn't lose a bunch of money. Okay, I was somehow stable enough to almost break even. But the amount of time I wasted staring at a screen, wondering, right? Longer term swing trading kind of on a ratio level can make sense to me. Okay, if you want to say, oh my God, PulseX has gone way, way too high. It's looking like I should rotate some of that PulseX into Hex. Okay, maybe. But we make these decisions on a multi-month time scale. We slow down and think about it. The faster you make a decision in this, the more likely you are to mess it up. And then, God forbid, you get it wrong a couple of times, and then you have this make it back mentality where you say to yourself, oh man, my net portfolio value is down 30% because I did the wrong ratio trade. Now I got to make it back. And that's a dangerous mentality to have too, because then you get desperate. And from a trader's mindset, that desperation will make you more impulsive, less logical, less able to think with your frontal lobe, and you're going to get caught up in different narratives, whether or not it's, oh, INC might have it. Richard just tweeted about INC, or, it could be a completely different token. This is also just kind of how people fall for all kinds of shiny objects during the bull market, including myself, by the way, including myself. I'm just telling you my personal experience and how really taking a step back, sitting on my hands and doing nothing is not only a lot more peaceful, but most likely a lot more profitable than a lot of other people who might overcomplicate things and think that they have to take action all the time. You don't always have to take an action. So enjoy the INC pump and enjoy the little pullback we have. It could be a good buying opportunity for, all three of these, right? We are going to have pullbacks. Things don't go up and to the right in a straight line. Watch out. You don't necessarily want to be this guy. I hate to pick on this guy. And who knows? This guy might do great. This guy might do amazingly well just by holding that INC token. But if he then goes and says, oh, INC is crashing now, and then he apes back into Hex because he feels like he made a mistake, well, then that's how you lose money, right? Because you chased a pump, and then I don't know what he's going to do next. I don't care. I'm just saying this is a good example of pump chasing. And when you chase a pump, it's really easy to kind of feel silly if you're on that short-term daily scale or that 15-minute scale where you don't really want to be. Look at things on a weekly. Look at things on a monthly. Take time to make your decisions. It's going to be all right. We're all going to make it. Like, subscribe, share the video, leave a comment. See you on the next one.